In Anambra State in southeast Nigeria, the governorship election is finally over. After a supplementary ballot was arranged in one local government area where elections did not hold, a winner has been announced, and he is Charles Chukwuma Soludo. The candidate of the All Progressive Grand Alliance, or APGA, won 19 out of 21 local government areas. After a late start to the voting process in many polling units in Hihiala, local government area of the state, the All Progressive Congress garnered 343 votes, APGA 8,283 votes, and the People's Democratic Party with 2,485 votes. This brought the total votes garnered by the top three parties to 43,285 for APC, 112,229 for APGA, and 53,807 votes for the PDP.
Today, for that Charles Chukwuma Soludo having satisfied the requirements of the law, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected. This is dated today, 10th November 2021, and is signed by me, the returning officer.
When the announcement was made, a jubilant Charles Soludo celebrated the win around well-wishers and also extended an olive branch to other candidates for the collective development of the state.
We thank President Buhari, the presidency, and our security agencies for ensuring a level playing field. We must particularly commend the chairman, management, and staff of Inec for systematically striving to bequeath a legacy of free, fair, and transparent electoral system to Nigeria. The use of bimodal voter accreditation system, a massive improvement over the card reader and manual accreditation system. With a continuous refinement of the technology, upscaling of the skills of its operators, collaboration with telecommunication companies, improvement in logistical deployment and security, and stringent punishment for anyone involved in electoral malpractice, Nigeria will be on course to a robust and exemplary electoral system. Aside from the initial glitches in the operations of the BVAS machines in some places, including at my polling unit, the election has been adjudged as the most peaceful, free, fair, and credible. There is joy in the land. Kudos to Inec. I wish to congratulate you for the gallant contest. Our people have spoken overwhelmingly, and surely that voice is the voice of God. The ultimate winner is Anambra people. We are all winners. I hereby extend my hand of fellowship to all of you. I need all of you to succeed. Politics aside, we are all brothers. Let's come together for the project Anambra. There is enough room for everyone to contribute in the service of our homeland. In Anambra, we fight hard during elections, but meet the next weekend at traditional weddings and funerals and throw banters and share drinks. That's the Anambra way. Let's keep the spirit of Anambra alive and strong, and with it, collectively take our homeland to the moon.
Right. Finally, this is over to Ndu.
Yes, I mean, Charles Soludo is officially, according to Inec, governor-elect of Anambra State. So we congratulate him for that. We can hear the fat lady soprano. All too often, though, there's an unfortunate third act, isn't there? apart from the voting public, then INEC doing their bit, then some people decide to go to court. And I hope that that doesn't happen in this case. I'm sorry to say, but I just want this to be over. It appears that the people of Anambra have spoken. It wasn't even a close race. It was quite by, a considerable gap there. So I hope that we don't see that. I have to stress, we want it to be about people power. And I think India Anambra should be rewarded in that way because of the fact that they literally risked their necks to come out and vote. We did not think, many of us, in the run-up to this election, that it will end in praise because of the violence, the threat of violence, the intimidation, everything that the people of Anambra went through. And they still came out. Yeah, the voter turnout was not high, but this is the problem with statistics. Just looking at the black and white facts can mislead. Without the context, you think that it was a low turnout, but putting those facts in their proper context, those people really came out in force, as far as I'm concerned. They really went above and beyond, even with the issues with the beaver. So I think the best way to reward the people of Anambra is to really end it here. Those are just my 2 cents. And I thought it was very beautiful, the notes that Charles Soludo struck by mentioning, referring to the police officers who died when he was attacked during his campaign. We always have to remember those gallant officers that really laid down their lives to protect their principle. And it's so sad that it ever had to come to that. So congratulations to him, 3rd time lucky. I guess this is giving hope to a lot of technocrats. And many of us do believe that we need to see more technocrats in public office. And it shows that it can be done with doggedness and determination.
Yes, it can be done.
Well, first, let's start by congratulating the people of Anambra State. Their resilience, their doggedness, their determination. Either you look at it from the spectacle of women who refuse to collect money, monetary inducement, or the people of Iala who at 12 p.m. yesterday were protesting that the voting should have started and that they will not go anywhere and their votes must count and they would be the ones to decide who will be governor. Or perhaps, the efforts made by those who turned out. Yeah, the turnout may not have been so impressive, but it followed a pattern in Anambra elections. But at the end of the day, the people voted, they have spoken. We hope that the voice of the people will be respected and that those who may be tempted to challenge the verdict of the people will be better advised in terms of how this whole process that nobody even expected would play out well has played out well at the end of the day. Both Professor Charles Soludo and Victor Oye, the chairman of the winning party, APGA, they're both in order, in my view, to have congratulated President Muhammadu Buhari, and if you like, the Buhari administration, which also demonstrated, great determination in saying that this process in Anambra 2021 will not be derailed by non-state actors. And in terms of the deployment of the security agencies, the conduct of the security agencies, and also, the resolve of the government itself, I think that this has proven a point that government is, at the end of the day, whatever may be the problems in the country, are very important and could provide direction and leadership in terms of how the country turns out. Well, congratulations are also in order to Charles Soludo himself. This is not the first time that he has sought to be a governor of Anambra State. The other time he did so on the platform of another party. But he came to the realization, it seems to me, that all politics is local, and he decided to align himself with the politics of his people. Anambra State is run by APGA, which is considered basically as a southeastern political party with some kind of cultural and ethnic identity. And having taken that informed step, he is now governor of Anambra State. And he has won very convincingly with a very wide margin. And yesterday we were saying Iala will be the game changer. But we also pointed out that in 2010, in 2013, in 2017, the people of Iala had voted after a pattern. We argued that we're not likely to see any change. So congratulations are in order to him and to all the people who work for him. Now, for Charles Soludo himself, he has served as governor of Central Bank before in a position where he could dictate policies. Now, as governor, he's not going to be dictating policies. He has to work with people. He has to be a bridge builder. He has to be sensitive to the choices of other people. He has to carry the people who work for him along. And that's why I think it's important that one is calling on other people, other candidates in that contest to join him in moving Anambra forward. I think that's a very strong message. Two, we also hope that as governor, he will not have issues with the man that is succeeding, Willie Obiano, who had worked very hard to also make sure that this victory is delivered. In many of the states, once a man succeeds another person, they suddenly become enemies. Willie Obiano versus Peter Obi and similar examples. And then third, of course, we are also hoping that APGA will see this as an opportunity to move from being a regional one-state political party to build up, to scale up at a higher level. And we also hope, of course, that there's some takeaway from this. In terms of those people who left APGA in droves and went into the APC ahead of the election, who exactly did they work for? Because in some of those local governments, Soludo still won. Could it be that their hearts, still stayed behind with APGA, and for convenient reasons, they moved to the ruling party? Local governments like Obaru, Anocha, and some of those local governments. Finally, it looks like Anambra has managed in choosing its governorship candidates and governors a certain standard. We had Ezefe, PhD Harvard. We had Mbadiniju, professor of politics. We had Chris Ngige.
Pharmacy.
Yeah, Chris Ngige. He's not a pharmacist, he's a medical doctor.
No, Mbadiniju.
Mbadiniju, well, okay.
Yeah.
Well, but he was also a professor,
yeah.
Very distinguished in the United States before he came home. You had Peter Obi, a prominent businessman, alumnus of all the leading business schools in the world, from Switzerland to Harvard to wherever. You had the man who is there now, Willie Obiano. Willie Obiano is a banker and a chartered accountant. And now you have Charles Chukwuma Soludo, professor of economics, former chief economic advisor to the president of Nigeria, and former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Well, I can say for Charles Soludo that I don't think he's looking for relevance or money, so he has a job to do. And as I argued yesterday, his job is cut out for him. So expectations are high. Because he's a man who says, I know what I'm doing. He has now the opportunity to prove it. And he has to know that those expectations are not just local, they are also international. Congratulations, India Anambra. And congratulations, Charles Chukwuma Soludo.
And in the end, it is going to be well with Anambra. That's all on news headlines. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll have Rhodes Zudiri, Michael Wilson, and Adeso Omoroa to give us updates on Africa, global business, and COVID-19 across the globe. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Our dependable Rhodes Zudiri, why are you laughing? Is here to give us an African business update.
That puts a lot of pressure. Good morning, Suludo. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Doctor. We just quickly kick things off with a conversation I had with Bosun Amofaya, who I told you is in Cape Town for the Africa Energy Week. Let's take a listen to an excerpt of a conversation we had yesterday on Arise Exchange.
The three-day event is kicking off on a very high level if you consider the level of the energy ministers, the oil and gas industry operators, the independents, the CEOs, the various organizations who are in the business of energy across Africa. Now, this is not just an African event, by the way. These are conversations being held with very significant energy industry interest from North America, from the US, from Canada, from Britain, from the UK, from elsewhere. So even though it's called an Africa Energy Week, yes, the big representation that we're seeing here today and that will be throughout the week are all about those who have interest in the Africa energy business. You're talking about big names such as Tulu Oil, British Petroleum, Chevron, and all of that. You can see these big names are interested in Africa. Again, remember, Africa is the last economic frontiers, whether it is in energy, whether it is in agriculture, investment, infrastructure, destination investment, in exports, in mineral resources. So everyone is interested really in what is going on in Africa. For example, the Nigeria's Petroleum Industry Act came into a very sharp focus in a Nigeria-focused session and a panel today where you have at least about 4 or 5 Nigerian experts speak to the PIA and what cooperation and what investments Nigerians want to see in the energy sector moving forward. The whole conversation is taking place at a very, very opposite time.
All right, so yeah, that's the update. Boston, again, is going to be there up until Friday, so we'll be getting daily updates as to what's been going on there. From oil and gas, we move to aviation. The Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria has apparently apprehended staff from ARIC for demanding bribes. So as you can see, that sign there says that, that we do not condone extortion. I'm not sure if you saw this viral video from a foreigner who was traveling. This is what led to this. Let's take a look at the video.
I've been around the world, and I've never seen an airport as insane as this one you have here in Lagos. And by that I mean, it's extremely corrupt. Picture corruption. Okay. The Nigerian airport, the Lagos airport, is that very definition of corruption that would pop up in the dictionary. Literally everywhere. Literally everything here. Coming in. You don't want to wait online for your COVID test? Oh, pay this guy. You don't want to have your bags checked? Pay this guy. You want to cut passport line? Pay this guy. You want to bring the Red Bull through security? Pay this guy. You want to get some crazy British Airways employee off your back who thinks that you were specifically filming him when you're just trying to film yourself checking in? Pay that guy. Oh my God. This is very draining and very stressful here. My friends, Nigeria is not for the faint-hearted. Go to East Africa for that. This is next level.
All right, so let's quickly move from aviation to logistics. Uber is jumping into the logistics space. This really, I'm surprised they didn't do this sooner. That's a notice that if you log on to the Uber app and you're ordering a ride, you'll see this this notification they sent out to a number of people. So they're going to be going into delivery of goods and services. Now, I bring this up to bring up the election in Ihiali. Yes, Ihiala, the supplementary election, which of course, congratulations to Charles Soludo, he's now won. Ozi Okoli, our correspondent, was in Ihiali yesterday for the supplementary election. Voting was supposed to start at 10 a.m. They didn't get to the location until 12 noon when Newsday begins, which is our show that starts, our news show that starts at 12 noon. And they were talking to Ozi Okoli. Accreditation didn't start until 3 p.m. In 2021, in fact, we're going into 2022 now, and you look ahead to the 2023 elections, can Inec, and I think they currently contract their logistic delivery of materials to election sites to, I think it's the NURTW, if I'm not mistaken. Can they not get a Gokada, an Uber, Allride, and all these other companies in order to get materials to sites a lot faster? Because this continues to happen again and again and again. And then going further, I'm sorry, but I'm still going to keep banging on about e-voting. I want you to take a look at this NIMC, the National Identity Management Council. They have an app. I recently renewed my passport. Whether you're renewing a passport or you're getting a brand new one, you cannot get it without your national identity number, your NIM. You cannot screenshot the NIMC app. If you go into it and in order to get your NIN downloaded, it can't be screenshot. It is one of the most secure apps I have ever seen from an agency in the Nigerian government. They are not playing with it. So if, one, for identity purposes, and two, for transferring money, this is on a separate issue. Now, I've talked about this before. If you can transfer money in this country and nobody can hack into your phone, why can't we get to e-voting via mobile platforms? Finally, Safaricom, they're pulling out of Ethiopia, or they're evacuating staff from Ethiopia because of the Tigray conflict. Safaricom put together, I think we have another image here, where there's a consortium where it's between them, the CDC. Yeah, so this is this consortium that they put together to bid for a telecoms license in Ethiopia, second most populous nation on the African continent. Safaricom, 55.7% stake. Sumitomo, the giant Japanese international conglomerate that invests in businesses around the world, 27.2%. CDC, the investment arm of the United Kingdom, and then Vodacom, 6.2%. This is the consortium they put together to bid for a telco license. they've now, Safaricom has now had to evacuate staff. I even understand that even Dangote Cement, Dangote's operations in Ethiopia, pretty much as many businesses as you can think of, are under threat because of this. Insecurity in Africa continues to hamper investment.
And it's quite very sad. The war started last year after the forces of the government of Ethiopia, that's President Abiy, which, funny enough, was given the Nobel Prize a couple of years ago for peace. How ironic. And he went in and he pounded in the TPLF, the Tigray People, Liberation Front. It goes back, there's a historical antecedent to that, but because of time you can't go there because, there's a power sharing government. The TPLF used to lead before, but now there's a change in that power sharing government and all of that. Abiy emerged and the TPLF is not buying it and they're fighting back. And there's been fights on, and they're saying they will invade Addis Ababa very soon.
They're getting closer.
They're getting close, a couple of rebel groups that are fighting. But it just shows our insecurity dwindles the fortune of business and everything in Africa. It just shows. But for me, I think we brought this issue up yesterday of NURTW. I'm very iffy about NURTW doing logistics for Inec. Because they have Patron's land. And they failed.
They failed.
So why don't you get these guys in there? Because when you get these guys in there, what they do is they create more jobs, they make the ecosystem more robust, and they open up greater opportunities. And hey, there's a sink. They are tech companies, so you can see the technological pathway. You could even track
is on the app.
Where
they're going,
where the materials
when
are,
they get there.
Which INEC can never get with NURTW.
Right. You can't do it.
So if anything happens, you can even track an incident report on time
from
initiation
to destination.
From initiation to destination. Right. So I don't know why INEC can't just call these guys in the room
and contract it out.
And contract it to them. Voila, problem solved. Okay, Tunde.
Sorry.
Because of time, go ahead.
It's important that you put that out there because it's not enough to really bemoan the problems, is it? It's important to point out possible solutions. And with Uber, you said you don't know why they just thought about it now. They've had a bit of a struggle.
Right.
They're finally, turning a profit, hitting their stride. Maybe that's why they're considering this. But you raised an excellent point. It should be addressed. And the NIMC app as well. That's another great point about voting remotely, because we've talked about how Anambra people really are being commended left, right, and center for showing up. And that's only 10 to 15% because of the insecurity. And we can also have diaspora voting, which I think is also so important if we get this all sorted. But yes, Abiy Ahmed, you've said everything that needed to be said. That's really just a tragic situation. But that issue with FAN, it's really good to see them responding. Usually we get this knee-jerk reaction from government agencies, or usually the presidency, I have to specify, when they feel that they've been criticized. It's usually very defensive, the response, but they're actually looking within and taking what that travel blogger said, the observations that he made, and really trying to, clean up the space. Sabbatical, thank you. Really trying to clean up the space. That's important.
Well, quickly, let's start with all these conversations about climate change and the future of energy, or what's called the global energy transition, either from COP26, G20 to the meeting in Glasgow, or to the Africa Energy Week in South Africa. I see a lot of hypocrisy. And I think that has been confirmed by a report that just came from Glasgow Climate Action Group, or what they call the Glasgow Analytics, saying that yes, companies, governments, they've made promises, but those promises, the gap between promises and action, or what can be achieved eventually, is so wide. And the Glasgow analysts who released their report yesterday, they're saying that even on the basis of those pledges that have been made, the best that we can achieve is 2.9 degrees Celsius, which is still way beyond the 1.5 degrees Celsius or the 2 degrees Celsius as cap that was recommended under the Paris Climate Accord. So, but even more touching is the fact that in the Africa Energy Week in South Africa, we're still getting the conflicting statements. We're told, for example, that last Thursday, quite a number of countries came together and pledged that, they are also committed, that's 25 African countries inclusive, along with other countries. And before now, the Nigerian government had also promised zero net tolerance for gas emission, carbon dioxide emission, and all that. But the truth of the matter is that these developing countries, they also make the right noises, but they don't have structures in place. They will suffer from financial challenges. A country like Nigeria will be vulnerable. And also in South Africa yesterday, Bakindo, who is the Secretary General of OPEC, he was saying that about $450 million worth of investments, will go to countries like Nigeria and developing countries to build refineries. Okay, we're saying we're moving away from fossil fuels, carbon emission, and now you are talking about investment. Okay, maybe he's speaking that way because he's in charge of OPEC. But the question to ask is, where would the investment come from?
Right.
Nigeria has been putting up its refineries for sale for how long? And I've not seen too many people who are enthusiastic about that. And then, of course, you raise the issue about Inec, whether Inec should use Uber and all of that, and other groups to provide logistics. But of course, that there are also risks involved in that regard. But everyone was disappointed, I guess, by INEC's, performance, more or less, in the Anambra election, because INEC raised our hopes. You would think everything will go clockwise, but it didn't quite happen like that. But perhaps when you have a human system, human elements will account. Late arrival of voting materials, even yesterday in Ihiala, and all of that. But as you have said previously, the people of Anambra, they are satisfied with the outcome. And INEC should take this as an opportunity to learn as it prepares for the off-cycle elections in 2022 and the general elections of 2023.
Right, we don't have much time. I want to say something else, never mind.
There's always tomorrow. Thank you.
Moving on now to Business Update. Michael Wilson joins us now from London. Good morning, Mr. Wilson.
Good morning. Asian markets really on the back foot, given the PPI release out of China, a record level of 13.5%. Officials blaming weather, material and energy costs and so on. Hong Kong's Hang Seng down this morning. Shares of Chinese real estate firm Fantasia Holdings plunging more than 48% after it's coming back to trade. It's suspended for more than a month in trading because it didn't pay $206 million bond, which matured in early October. I have to say that most people are saying to me this morning that the silence of the Chinese government about what they're intending to do about the real estate sector is absolutely deafening right now. Mainland Chinese stocks declined, Shanghai Composite down. Consumer inflation in China roughly roughly in line with expectations. But those factory gate prices, I think that is a worry. That's the largest increase in about 25 years. President Xi, as far as China is concerned, he said he's willing to work with the United States and on condition of, and this is inverted commas, mutual respect. And this ahead of the virtual meeting that's going to happen between President Xi and also US President Joe Biden. Beijing apparently typically uses the term mutual respect in calling for more favorable communication with the United States. Now, to the United States then, and a recap, stock futures are lower ahead of the big one today. It's the key inflation figures. We've seen an increase in producer prices, very much in line with the estimates. So the Dow Jones futures dropped about 117 points. In regular trading, the Dow down about 0.3. Tesla shares ending at nearly 12% lower. We talked about that yesterday, extending Monday's losses, largely technical weakness rather than anything that Elon Musk has said in the past few hours, at least. As far as interest rates in the United States are concerned, the St. Louis Federal Reserve President James Bullard, he's a well-known hawk as far as the Fed's concerned, and he thinks that there'll be 2 interest rate rises in the United States in 2022. Here's the end of an era thing. General Electric, do you remember Jack Neutron Welch, who ran the company very, very successfully for a number of years? It was once the world's most valuable company in those terms, in those days when industrial companies were rather big. It's going to split into 3 companies following years of seeing the actual stock underperform. They'll divide it into aviation, healthcare and energy. The markets actually like that. And also, it is worth noting, we were talking a little bit about Tesla, New York's brace for the Amazon-backed Rivian electric truck IPO. It'll be the largest one, $70 billion since Facebook. That's the expectation. That's happening anytime soon. You were talking about COP26 and all those promises. Well, 4 of the largest 5 automakers have failed to make any pledges. They are Volkswagen, Toyota, Renault, Nissan, and Hyundai Kia. All those companies have said absolutely, have refused to actually go along with any kind of pledges at all. You talked about that, what's going to happen with the overall market, the overall level of, or the decrease in temperature of 2.9%. Don't know how anybody gets to that figure, but that's nowhere near, as you quite rightly said, the Paris targets, which seems a long, long time ago. As far as the EU and Facebook and the UK and online is concerned, that whistleblower there, Frances Hagen, there she is, she says that all companies should do a lot more to control online harm. It'll be a big missed opportunity if they don't. She's not just talking about the nasty stuff, but she's also talking about things like the rabbit holes that kids get drawn into, you know, with the algorithms and so on. They go on, they talk about food content, and they're soon into algorithms that take them into anorexia content, again, and something which needs to be looked at by the authorities. The UK, the Bank of England is looking at digital currencies once again. This evaluation of design and possible benefits of a new kind of digital money. Now, this would be something which it would be in parallel with the normal currencies, the currency that we use. But the consultation will go well into next year before anything actually happens. And I just thought I'd chuck in a bit about Bitcoin as well. That rally continues. It hit $68,564 yesterday, an increasing mainstream adoption. The total global market of Bitcoin is now $3 trillion. Oil's recovery continues. Nobody's actually paying any attention to any calls from the American government about helping out the energy markets, and the idea that the United States should release something from its strategic reserve, found on the fact that Biden's hands are particularly tied. A big release on that can only be released if supplies are disrupted, not if prices rise. Very important distinction between the two. And gold, well, you see, we've been looking at that. We're wondering why it's rising. It's doing quite well. It's coming up to, I think I've got it at about 1827. It could get to that 2000 figure. If it starts testing those highs, there's no stopping it. But more people will get into that as inflation continues to be, what I think, and I think we all do on this program, don't we, fairly sticky at the moment globally, okay. And that's the global view. Okay,
Michael, 2 things. Number 1, is this Facebook whistleblower, are we set up for another ID Tabel moment, you know, like ID Tabel did for Standard Oil that led to the breakup of Standard Oil? That's one. Secondly, the price of gold is rising. Why? Because of the uncertainty in the market. Isn't it time for the central banks to do what is right? Give a clear directive on what they're going to do, a clear position. Because we all know the reason why the price of gold is rising.
Central banks never declare anything plainly, as you know. What they do is it's all been nods and winks and so on. They can talk about the rough direction, but we were all caught on the back foot, weren't we, last Thursday, when it appeared as though the Bank of England was headed towards an interest rate rise, and nothing happened. The Fed has made noises about tapering its bond asset purchases, which it may well do. Very odd sort of noises here and there coming out of whether there's going to be an interest rate rise towards the end of the year. Again, as I brought you this morning, just one Fed president of the St. Louis Fed, Bullard, said that he's expecting 2 interest rate rises in 2022. It's all a bit of confusion at the moment. That's that. And so gold, I think people are sort of going to it. It's not, I mean, to be honest, I mean, if you're really going to, I think, if you're really going to get into this and get into speculation, you might as well, I hate to hear myself saying this, but you might as well get into Bitcoin if you want to protect against inflation. I know this is almost heresy, and I don't agree with it, but if you want to get into speculation, that's where I go. Gold is gradually getting there, but it's only technically driven. Again, there's not a massive readoption of it. As far as Facebook's concerned, I still come to the view that it hasn't escaped any kind of scrutiny yet. It's going to have much more scrutiny, quite right too. Social media is down for scrutiny. These companies are too big, don't pay the taxes that everybody else expects from them, and they're going to be a fairly easy target to start with the Democrats in the United States, and then for other governments around the world. Well,
very quickly, Michael, within the short time that we have left. 1, General Electric, this decision to divide it into General Electric, aviation, healthcare, and energy. How much of a defining moment is this with regard to Jacques's legacy? Will it address the challenge of underperformance that General Electric has been dealing with? Then Bank of England is at the research and consultation stage with regard to digital currency. Now, are we going to see any concrete progress in that regard, considering the fact that the US is very skeptical about digital currency? Yes, China is a bit enthusiastic. They are test running in Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen. Okay, 2 countries. Nigeria, the first in Africa to announce the e-Naira, which is a form of digital currency. And in September, you had El Salvador, going the route of Bitcoin as an alternative currency. So what should we expect? What are we likely to see? Why are some countries skeptical and some are more enthusiastic than others? And finally, the NHS plan, the COVID-19 mandate that Sajid Javid, Health Secretary, has announced. Would that really result in loss of jobs or, people resigning en masse with implications for community healthcare delivery in the UK? Or the people who are raising those questions are just raising an unnecessary storm?
You're taking me into an area I know very little about healthcare as far as the NHS is concerned. All I'm saying is, if I were a frontline health worker, I'd make sure that I was vaccinated. I don't see what the problem is. I don't see what the objections are. And if I were the NHS bosses, I would be absolutely insisting on that. I don't see any kind of way. But again, I'm not an expert as far as healthcare is concerned. Bank of England and digital currencies, well, you can discount El Salvador because that was Bitcoin. What central banks are looking at are their own digital currencies. And the thing about that is that it allows them to make very, very precise measurements about who's spending what, where, and when. And that's very important if you're trying to get to these old... Do you remember these old figures like M0, M3, M1, M2, and all that business? It used to keep us all confused those years ago. You don't hear a great deal of talk about that at the moment. That's about coins and money and circulation, isn't it, and so on. I think you'd learn, if that counts towards your monetary, not fiscal, monetary policy, then I think that's something which that people will be looking at. I don't think much will happen. I think the Bank of England will look at it. It may make a decision. They're only marking the fact that they're going to do it, and this is because they're recognising that it's more moving mainstream. It'll only take a few more fund managers, and we got an ETF going in the United States as far as digital currency is concerned. It'll only take a few more fund managers to get it into mainstream, and then people can make their own choices about it. So it will push government to look at digital currencies, not Bitcoin, but creating their own. As far as GE is concerned, I think it's the end of an era. The market likes the fact it's splitting into 3. It makes it more identifiable. I don't know about the internal workings of GE. It's a great behemoth. It is of another area, as is Jack Welch as well, as his management books stretch over all those bookshelves in your local bookshop. But the markets like it, certainly.
Well, shares have improved by about 3% since that announcement was made. Thank you very much, Michael.